everyone. I appreciate all of you joining me, and I appreciate Adam from Topline Baits even more for joining me on a whim on a random Saturday night. I was like thinking to myself, how can I make this cool? I was supposed to do this giveaway for a guide trip last week, and then I went to the ER on Sunday when I was supposed to do the draw. All I'm going to say about that is Google epididymal appendage torsion, and that'll take care of all that you need to know about that. And yeah, so it's not been the most comfortable or fun week for me, but we're here, and I appreciate Adam joining me on very very short notice. So thank you, dude. How are things going?
Good, man. I was just, like I said, I was just painting baits. It's usually what I do every night now until probably show season's done. But I
Smart.
took a little layoff, I should say, after the show last weekend. This is the second day I've been painting, so I took a few nights off just to calm down and relax, get back into the
That's
groove.
That's very fair. The first thing on my list is New York, but I want to do the draw first because I don't want to get rolling and then like forget about it because this is the thing. So we got the Musky mug going. I'm gonna pull one name out for a guide trip. I've got about 50 names here, so I appreciate all those who decided to get in on that. And I threw in a couple of extra names from people who shared posts from my guiding before I offered the free guide trip. So we're just gonna go in here. They're all in here. You're just gonna have to trust me. We're gonna get one name out of here, and we're gonna see who it is and see what happens. All right, we got a name. We
Is
got a
it
name.
me?
It is not you, unfortunately, but your name was in there. We got Trey Mason. So Trey,
Oh, okay.
hit me up. We'll figure something out. I want to say that he's closer to Wisconsin, so it might be a Wisconsin program. So Trey, hit me up. We'll figure something out. I'll try and find you on the socials and let you know, and then we'll go from there. So thank you to all who shared the post and are helping me do my thing. It's greatly appreciated, especially with my new gig side of things and keeping me rocking and rolling. Um, During that time of year, doing something that I want to do versus something that I have to do. So that's the key. So anyway,
Agreed.
appreciate all of you doing that. So Trey, hit me up. Appreciate you. So you were just talking, Adam, about painting, taking a break, all the things. How was New York? It looked like from all the pictures that I saw, it was an absolute blast. Unfortunately, it's freaking 18 hours from me. So how were things there?
It was awesome. The venue was amazing. One of the nicest hotels I've stayed at possibly my entire life. And again, like the New York Musky Expo, it's just the whole atmosphere of that show is just it's a giant. It's not a pissing competition. There's no like egos. Everyone's there to have a good time. It was a blast. Sold sold enough baits. I had lots of drinks. Got to hang out with the Wisconsin boys. Got to hang out with some
Nice.
people from West Virginia, Ohio, Michigan, and
Did did Justin behave himself this year, or did the Banging Bottom Boys get the best of him again? This is the question everybody wants to know.
we all know the answer to that one. Those banging bottom boys, they grab a hold of you, you're done. So you just got to steer clear of them. We got to actually the Saturday, I guess it'd technically be Sunday morning. We stayed up till about 4 o'clock in the
Oh
lobby,
God.
and there was what was it? It was my wife, myself, my buddy Zach, and then the Banging Bottom Boys and Mr. Rex St. Pierre was there. So we had let's just say it was comical. It got loud and it was
I
very
believe you.
comical. And I'm sure the lady at the front desk just kept looking over like, please just get out of here. And I'm pretty sure it was my wife. She's like, all right, I think it's time for everybody to go to bed. So
Fair enough.
we took off. It was a fun. It was an early morning. The
Yeah,
best part is the best part is like the Sunday morning we got to the show. It started at 9. Everyone's like, "How you feel?" And it's like, "I feel great." We were all still pretty drunk. We didn't feel bad until we had to drive home, basically. But
uh,
and
yeah.
then we were running from a snowstorm. There was a huge snowstorm that was pretty much following us all the way to the border, and as soon as
Oh
we
man.
crossed, we kind of got hit with it, but nothing crazy. It was worse New York side than Canada side. But I know the Vince and those guys got caught in it. It sounded like that was quite the journey back home.
That's never fun. I had that happen to me with the Minnesota show, and I can relate to the too much fun thing until you drive home thing. Back in the day when I used to play in a band, and we recorded some music down in Nashville, and we had a really good time the night before we went back, and I very vividly remember feeling absolutely terrible until we were like over halfway home. Uh, 0 out of 10 on that car ride. Thank God it's pretty flat through Southern Illinois. Otherwise, that would have been trouble for me. But uh,
Yeah, like it
good
wasn't too
times.
bad for us. Like we're only 3.5 hours from Chautauqua, so it's not
Oh,
nothing
nice.
like Vince and those guys. I think what was their drive? Probably 13, 14 hours.
Probably at least that. It probably
Yeah,
depends on the way that they take, and it probably depends on how far they have to go, like down and around the Great Lakes, and how that
fair
pathway takes them. I don't know. I assume that if I was to do that, I would just take I-80 pretty much all the way over there until it would. I'd have to go north, but I don't know that for a fact.
Well, I know where the Wausau show is. It's 12 hours from my house, so, but I'm
That
also a little
sounds about
higher
right.
north, and I have to shoot straight across.
Yeah, I
It's not
think
too bad.
I'm hoping I'm very confident that I will be there for that, which will be awesome because I'll get to join all you guys and hang for at least Friday afternoon. So that'll be sick. And yeah, from where I am, I think it's probably about 5 hours. But there's a couple guys that live in town here that go every year, and they're like retired, so it works out well. I'll just carpool with them. Worst case scenario, I'll just like edit. I'll have like 10 hours to edit videos
Yeah, there you
there and
go.
back.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I can't hang out very long because they want to get back, and I kind of have to get back too because I found out yesterday that the in-laws will be out of town. Um, the in-laws will be out of town that weekend. I know for sure because that's the weekend before our spring break. So they won't be in town, so I need to get back to help with all the things, unfortunately. Which,
yeah, that's the weekend of our spring break. So
oh,
actually, my
really?
wife's coming. My wife's
Damn.
actually coming with me to Wisconsin now, so we have to
Yeah,
find all the daycare and the grandma and grandpas
no kidding.
hopefully to take over because we'll probably leave. I'm guessing I'm gonna leave Thursday at like 4 o'clock and just drive through the night and then get there at a decent time in the morning and maybe grab a couple hours of sleep before we set up.
Yeah, that must. Yeah, that's a lot to coordinate, and I'm hoping that the week of our spring break, I'm hoping to go further south, um, to maybe south of the border a little bit to do some southern musky stuff, but we'll see. It kind of also depends
Awesome.
on what Barry's got going on. So anyway,
That'd be all right.
not
'Cause
that we need to.
I'm assuming you guys are all locked up probably.
Yeah, it's been a really weird ice season actually, and the saddest part about it is so there was two people that died on my local lake today. There are probably eight others that I can think of off the top of my head situations where people passed away, and probably three other close calls where people were talking about stuff being really sketchy. I don't know why this year it's so bad. I don't know if people are just overconfident because we've had some really cold days, but like our nights. My buddy said this today, and that made a lot of sense. But he's like, generally, our nights haven't really been that cold, especially over the last month. So we built a good patch of ice. But to give you an idea of like the variability around us, so my buddy and I fished a derby about 40 minutes north of where I live, and we had, 10-ish, 12-ish inches of ice. The top two were not good. And then where we fished today, we had like 5 to 6 inches of ice with the top inch not being any good. But we've had just a bunch of crazy
Okay.
weather in between. And some of these lakes, I think, have more current in them than people realize. And that can get kind of sketchy. And like, the other X factor around here too is the geese. Like the geese only go as far south as want to go or can go. And I know for a fact because like my trip um, on my commute home, I go right by the river. So there's a big old pot of them that have been using the river basically all winter long, except for the coldest days. So those geese, I'm sure, are finding local bodies of water, whether it's the lakes or the ponds, and they're probably helping keep those open too. So I don't know. It's been a very strange winter. I feel really bad for all those families, but I can't think of a time where I've heard of so many people going through and just the worst outcome. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
terrible.
yeah,
This
it's
is
not
like
good.
this is the first winter we've had where we've actually had ice in 2 years for sure.
Well,
And
sorry, go ahead, dude.
no, go ahead. I was just saying that this is like a normal winter is what we're normally used to, but because of the last 2 years, it's foreign to us right
Well, I was gonna say that the crazy thing about this winter is this is the most ice we've had here probably in 4 years. 2 weeks ago, we were on one of my hometown lakes, and we had 12 inches of solid, clean, clear ice. Um, you could have about driven a truck out on it. It was so good. But the crazy, it's just so variable. And it's just crazy to think that like so that lake had 12 inches 2 weeks ago, and then we're fishing on farm ponds today that have like 5 to 6 inches. And I don't know if those ponds had 12 inches at one point or if they just didn't freeze as hard, but just variability has been like the 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 consistent factor this season, and I just don't think people are checking consistently enough when they're
now.
going out there. And I don't know how you teach people that. I don't know how you preach it to them or whatever, but it's not good when my wife's best friend who works the ER here at the university messages me and asks me how where I'm fishing and how thick the ice is, and I'm just like, you don't fish.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like yeah,
yeah.
anyway, that's not been fun, but on to funner things. I have this thing that I received from Bucko recently, and I think a couple of your baits might actually be in here. I have not opened it because of I don't know. I figured tonight we might as well. So we got some decals from Bucko. I need to put one of his on the Musky mug. I do know for a fact that there's no 12 or 14-inch or probably 10-inch baits in here, given that the box is probably 8 inches. So that I do know. I talked to Bucko this week. Adam, this looks familiar. This should look familiar to you. I think we talked about this one.
Yep.
What is give the specs on this guy for the viewers at home?
So I also have one right here. This
Nice.
is my personal one. So this is it's closer to 8.5 inches. Don't
Hmm.
really have a name for it as I'm horrible with names, but that's the new minnow bait. I've been working on that one for a while. It's been probably 2 or 3 seasons of just tweaking it, tweaking lips,
Because this is a little bit
and
longer than the proto you sent me last year. I
yeah,
think that one was probably closer to 7 inches. This one is definitely longer than that. Which I don't. Not that I dislike that. Don't get me wrong.
I
Um,
find, especially with minnow baits, I don't know what it is. I know they might seem big when you're holding it, but when you're looking
mhm,
in the water, it's very deceiving. They fish like a small bait, even though they are a
mhm,
bigger profile. I don't know if it's just the way they wobble and the flash they give off, but
sure.
this is also the bait that I've told on here before that the first fish on the final proto was a 54 incher on Lake of the Woods.
This is the one.
Um,
The 50. This is the legal that you're
this
talking
is the
about.
legal. The first
Nice.
fish was a legal fish, so I
That's so
figured
dumb.
there's no sense.
Yeah, don't mess
Better
with them.
not
It's fine.
change it
It's fine.
after that.
It's fine.
If a fish is gonna eat it that size, I think we finally got something. The other one's caught
Yeah.
fish,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but
No,
it
I
definitely wasn't no 54 incher. So
that other one was great, but I think it would just be better for trolling, just because of the way that the lip was designed and stuff, and how quick it would rise up. and I was just so scared I was going to lose it on a tree down here that I did not fish it as much as I should have.
So
Um,
the one you're talking about is actually it's a different bait.
oh,
That was
okay.
definitely a trolling bait. This one is weighted much better for casting. I do troll it. It trolls good, but it's just originally I was making it for trolling, but my buddy's like, man, you could twitch that thing around, and if you
Hmm.
slackline it like you do like a glide bait, like it really,
Or your
she'll
Dipstick
walk side
XLs.
to side, yeah, or you work it the same way, you're gonna love the way this thing works, and it gets
I'm
like,
excited.
and this one with the square lip, I ended up, I didn't have any of the shallow lips painted at that point when
Hmm.
I kind of forgot about them because I knew I was going to be making a lot of these for the Odyssey and for the Wisconsin show. So that one has the deep lip, but if we're talking like 7, 8 feet if you're really working it hard on a cast.
Nice.
So I mean, even where you use the XL, it could also be used
Oh yeah.
properly.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And those fish are eating crappies out there too, where I use that. Phil, what's up, dude? I need to have you on a live at some point. I have been disorganized and disoriented. I need to get you going. I hope that you I hope that Adam will have some stuff for you for Green Bay at some point this season, because that would be cool. Oh, Adam, this is the one I was most excited about. Yes. Dude, this thing looks so good. Um the bluegill Mav Shad or Mav Twitch?
Math Twitch,
Mav Twitch.
the old Mad
God,
Rock
dude.
Twitch.
This
That
thing
paint
looks
job,
awesome. Oh
I'm
my
not gonna lie, that
god.
that bluegill paint job was probably the longest paint job I've done in a long time, but they
This
turned
thing
out
looks
real good.
dumb. I was painting some blades today and I was trying to go for a bluegill vibe and I kind of messed up a couple of them. I'm gonna be honest. There's two that turned out really good when I was shading the purple, and then there's two where I'm gonna have to work some magic on them or just start over. One of them
Yeah,
is, unfortunately, one of them is it's got it's a hammered blade, so like I won't be able to sand it down. So that one's just gonna be what it's gonna be. I'll either save it or I won't. It'll be fine.
fair enough.
I'm
I
not.
mean, the amount of times I've had to do that, you get so far into a pattern and then you just screw it up, and it's like, well, I just
Yeah,
go back over it with white and start again.
yeah. I had an issue with one of the. So I did a run of three with blades for KV, and I had the 9 and the 8 turned out awesome, and then the 13 bled a little bit, and I think it's because I didn't let the black dry all the way before I added the color shift, and I was just like, it took me probably about a week to figure out that I how I messed that up, but it is what it is. Whatever. Trial
I
and
mean,
error, keeping going.
hey, if you keep doing that, I'm telling you, get an airbrush.
I know it would be easier with an airbrush, but also there's something about like doing it with the cans a little bit because like I can get the like quote unquote the metal specific stuff and it seems to stick better to the blades if I'm being honest.
Okay,
I have when I mess up, I have a hell of a time getting that stuff off of the blades to start over. So there is that. I don't know. I don't know. KV hasn't tested them yet. I'm excited to see what comes of that. They'll either work or they won't. So I'm not gonna epoxy any
yeah, fair
blades.
enough.
I'm not gonna
You
epoxy
know what?
any of the new batch until it happens.
I uh I I ended up painting some blades for Sam uh, a year and a half ago, and I didn't even want to epoxy him. I ended up giving him back to her, not epoxy, but she did send me a message not that long ago. They're all epoxy, and she's going to be building some bucktails at some point. They look
Oh
real
hell yeah.
cool.
I'm excited to see those. I am so freaking jacked for this, dude. BZ has been spamming me. He's the guy that I'm gonna go to Wausau with that I was messaging you about, and
Okay.
he really wants one of these in gold and orange. That
Golden
was his
orange.
thing. Um,
Oh,
I told him I'd put in a good word, and I was like, Adam and I are bros. I think he will probably hold one for you. So just I'll ask him and see. It's like he's like
yeah,
one of the nicest dudes I know, so I'm sure that he'd probably do it.
I'll definitely have some. but I think I'm only gonna bring. I'll only have maybe 12 to 15 of those at the Wausau show.
Because you said
I
this
told
is this is the longest bait that it takes you to make, right?
100% that bait takes me longer than even an XL dipstick to make. It's
So
just
without giving too much away, why if it is giving too much away, that's fine, but just if you can give away some to talk about why it's so different, that would be awesome, but if not, that's okay. I don't want you to give away the mojo.
no. That honestly, that one takes me the longest because the other ones I can cut and sand and like router them and then round them off a bit more. Where this
Mhm.
one is, you cut it, you shape it, and then I have to hand carve it with a knife and then round it with sandpaper. So the build portion, just the wood portion, where if I do a dipstick, I could, knock out a wood dipstick, the body and everything. It would take me, you know, 20 minutes, say. That thing takes me a couple hours just to do one. So it's a lot. And I always do the same, like if I'm doing those twitch baits, I'm gonna do 20 of them at once. So there's like a day and a half
Mhm.
of just hand shaping all of them, and you're trying to get them as accurate as possible,
Totally.
you know. And it's just, yeah, it's just a lot of work, but they work. They work great and they look great. I honestly still only own one. It's the very first one, and it's caught a bunch of fish.
Yeah, that one has some that 40 incher that I got last spring on yours, that thing did some damage to that bait. It was awesome.
That's it.
Yeah. I will say the only thing is they don't do super great in the tobacco cabbage, or maybe I don't know. I get into my modes up in the Northwoods and then like I kind of forget about some of the tools that I have that I should use or don't use. But to be completely honest, some of the stuff in the Northwoods was a little off last year. The dipstick worked, the XL worked awesome up there, just like it did the year before. But I don't know. It was just the summer stuff didn't set up the way that it normally does, and the fish seem to be really spread out. But I'm also
That that seemed to
stubborn.
be a common theme everywhere last year.
Well, I
Everywhere
think
was just weird.
yeah, I think like the more that I talk to people from that part of the world and just what they experience, like Gus and Taylor are on the water enough that they can just kind of they're there enough to figure it out. Where it's like when I'm up there with the fam and Willow, it's like I get 3 hours here, 2 hours here, 4 hours here, and it takes a lot longer to put it together. But I will say that I have never seen it the water that cool up there at like that far into the summer in the 6 or 7 years I've been going up there now. Like I had like 70 to 72-degree water temps around the 4th of July, and that was just wild to me. Um, Phil says he's first on the list. Yeah, I would imagine the Nomad Shad is going to be top tier for some of the Green Bay
Yeah,
guys. Like
we'll have a couple jointed ones. These are I don't know if you've seen pictures of them, but these are the
deadly.
this is a new pattern I came up with, and I actually kept one for myself, but in an
Don't
XL
blame you.
dipstick because I just think this is so fishy to me, and I
Oh,
know that's gonna
it's
catch.
awesome.
And then
It's
for
like
you
a
shad lovers,
It's like a greenback perch or something. It's like a take on the black perch, but
that's pretty
it's
much
great.
what I started to do with it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna change it. And I'll show you something real cool because I know I did this for the Odyssey because for whatever reason Canadians just love their strawberry patterns, but
They
you know
do.
me, I always got to change things up.
Yeah, dude. Grab it.
This one I just
Kelly, the draw was I gave away a guide trip on my socials for the summer. So that was why I did that. Sorry, Adam. Go ahead, man.
no. So this is my new version of the strawberry.
Ooh, deadly.
So there's
Deadly.
like the lines that you're seeing. It's like purple tint, so it's really gonna shine once you actually get it on the epoxy on. But something a little different, and there's a good chance I might keep one for myself too.
Yeah, no, that looks awesome, dude, with that gold and greenish in there. Bryce is asking me if I need any money for a hair transplant, and the reality of that is, Bryce, that I am very well aware that my hair is thinning, and I'm getting my dad's crescent moon going on up there. So uh, I'm north of 30. It is what it is, man. This is life. You get kids, you start losing hair. It's just how it works. I don't know.
Agreed.
Maybe Adam, you got a full head of locks back there, but
Oh, I got a
yeah,
full head of hair here.
you got the exact same thing I got going on.
My hair grows long, but I'm definitely starting to creep up
Oh
as
yeah,
the days go
that's
longer.
it's all right. It's all right. These things happen. You just learn
Oh
to
yeah.
accept it. I'm happy that we kind of just like naturally transitioned to Wausau because I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that my videos are great or whatever, but like if people have watched them and they have seen what the Dipstick XL does in the Northwoods the last 2 years for me, and they aren't sprinting to your booth, I am just I don't understand. I what these people are doing because that thing just pulls big fish, and it consistently pulls the biggest fish in the system for me, and since I've had one, and I've had one for 2 years now, and it's awesome, love it.
I know. I try to talk people into getting an XL. Even like in New York, I ended up selling. Like last year, I only sold one. Um, but this year I sold six, and I would say that one of the main reasons why I sold that many is because Kevin Goldberg got one last year, and he was just in love with it. He came over a couple times and talked some guys into buying one. And I don't know
No
if you know
such.
who Kevin
Oh
Goldberg
yeah,
is, but
dude's a hammer.
he is he is a fish magnet in any body of water that guy fishes, and
No
he
such
just
thing as a
talks
bait too
highly.
big.
There is no such thing, and I know going into Wausau, even when I talk to Rich, he's telling me, bring a lot of smaller stuff, which I'll have like the mini dipsticks, the regular dipsticks, obviously the nomads and some of the twitches, but I will be bringing a bunch of XLs because I have a feeling there'll be some people there that are going to be looking for them.
Sure. I mean, I've had 19 and 20-inch pike just absolutely crushed out of the back of my boat. And it's like if they can eat a freaking 19-inch pike, they can eat like 11-inch lure. Like I don't know. And I think with the Dipstick XL, the critical component of that is people need to work it harder. And I honestly get more action out of the XL, I think, than I do your regs. And maybe it's because I don't throw the regs enough because I'm like so confident in the XL that I'm just like, we're just gonna go with the big one and just be done with it. But like, I don't know. I can get those things to do some wild stuff down there, and the fish, it drives them nuts. I appreciate the XLs too because they feed me all the time. Like I have caught so
Yeah.
many pike out there in the basin on those things. Like that video last week, I got two and then lost I think two others that were just perfect eaters, and I was like, oh, if I'm cleaning three, I might as well clean five of them. Like
Yeah,
whatever.
might as well. I've always said that the XLs to me too, like the dipsticks, like the regular one, obviously I fish it a lot and it does well, but that XL just moves even different. It gets down, like you say, it stays down. It's good for where, especially where we fish in midsummer stuff when those fish are fairly deep and off like just off the rock edges where we fish. And it's hard, like I know you've said it before. There's not many baits that style of bait that will get down there and then stay down there more
Hmm.
so than most guys are throwing rubber and whatnot. Which
Right.
I have been messing around with a slow sinking dipstick that I worked around with last year. Haven't caught any
Dang.
fish on it, but it looks so good, and I put a bigger tail on the back. So
I
I'll
believe
be
you.
throwing it a lot more this year because there's something about it. It falls a little bit head forward, but when you do like up pulls, like if you're ripping rubber, it just
Hmm.
kind of like it does this like stall and it'll shoot up and then shoot straight down and then it like slows down and it starts slowly sinking.
Oh boy.
So it's something a little different rather than you're ripping rubber and it comes up and it does this, but it shoots up and then it'll shoot down and then
Hmm.
it slows itself down and keeps sinking. And then the tail I put on it's probably three times the size of the regular tails. So
Interesting.
it's
It's
got
kind of,
that.
huh. Okay. Cool. Cool.
I'll
Yeah.
have to send you some pictures at some point.
Please do. I would be super interested to see that. Kind of like not like the gladiator thing that the Cole, I can't pronounce his last name. It's crazy, but the Zilla Customs guy. He's got that kind of, you know, Orba take on that
Yeah,
thing, and I bet that thing will be deadly, deadly this summer. I know. I know a couple spots where I would throw that thing until they bit it because I know it would work. But
Yeah,
um,
it's a very cool bait.
the and that's the thing about the dipstick is I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like it gets into a zone and does something that baits don't do in that zone. Because like you can get rubber into that zone. There's no doubt about it. And that's why rubber works so well, especially on clear bodies of water, because that's primarily where I'm throwing the XL. But like um a Suic won't get that deep unless you like weight it to the point where it sinks, which again, you might be able to get results with that, but then you're going to be on this like inconsistent, like, is it going to do the thing that you want it to do if it's actually sinking kind of thing? I don't know. I don't like it when my Suic sink. I've got a couple that I've used and abused, and the fish have abused, and they sink, and I don't like it. But and like most of your twitches, like again, if you work this just so, it might get down to that zone for a little bit. Same with like a ridgeway. Like if you work it just so, it'll get down to there for a little bit, but it won't stay there. Like it won't sit there. And that's the X factor for the XL. Not to mention, I mean, the bait is moving so much water down there. If I'm ripping that XL hard, I mean, it's shooting side to side, 2-3 foot. I don't know what else does that.
Yeah, just
Like,
having a different action down there is a big difference, right? Like,
oh yeah.
bulldogs and stuff, you can get them to do so much, but
Hmm.
just a different profile in general, and just the way that slow rise. Yeah, it's been it's one of my favorite baits to toss around.
Phil says your orange belly shad looks dope, and I agree.
Well, there'll be a few of these at the Wisconsin show in this pattern, and I got a lot of fire tiger. I was told about your fire tiger addiction in Green Bay.
They love
So
it
there's
there.
going to be a lot of different variations of perch patterns. There's like flow perch, and I'll have some chartreuse stuff. I'll have some natural stuff as well. But there'll be a lot of bright stuff, and I'm a sucker for bright colors, which I know we've talked about.
Oh yeah, I want to tell you one thing that I appreciate greatly is your screw eye sitch. Um, I love I love Kevin Abendroth to death and Ridgway as well. But the last thing that I want to goof with when a tail gets eaten off in the middle of the day is super gluing another tail on there. So I appreciate the screw eye because it makes it 10 times easier. Like when I lose a tail on the Dipstick XL, it's like, eh, all right, I'll just screw another one on. Versus like, oh god, now I got to get out the accelerant and the glue and all of those things, and I'm sure that this takes more time, which is probably why less people do it. But I do appreciate that greatly. Plus, it's
I'm
just a
not gonna
customizable thing.
100%. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I found a supplier that I could get them from, and it just made sense to me. Like, all the dipsticks have them. Any bait that I ever make for myself that has a tail, I'll have some type of screw in, just because. Again, just the ease. Because I've
Hmm.
definitely have had fish that have taken the tail, just missed the bait completely, and grabbed the tail, and away they swim. And it takes all of 10 seconds to put on another tail, and you're back.
Right, and that's like even like the Narcan glides. Like I love those things. They're great. They look awesome in the water. But like I had a muskie like swing, and he just like missed it just so and grabbed the tail off of it. And then it's like, I don't have super glue with me. Like this was very early on in my musky adventures. And it's like, what am I supposed to do here? I don't have super glue. I don't have extra tails. Like, even if I have extra tails, I'm not going to be able to put them on there if I don't have super glue, which, I know most musky guys take super glue with them. This is not me crapping on super glue baits, but it's a convenience and ease thing that cannot go understated from my
I'm not
standpoint.
a perfect story for that is when I was fishing the Musky Cup. We just moved like three different fish in a matter of 5 minutes, and one fish in the figure eight came and just took the tail and swam away. And the fish were moving, so it took all of, like I said, 15 seconds to grab a tail,
Right.
put another one on, and break back. And I think it was like 4 casts later, I had another fish come in. It was just one of those things where everything just opened up, but it lasted for only about 15 minutes,
Mhm.
and then they
Yeah,
were
and
gone.
that's super critical, and like, yeah, if you're down and out and you're goofing around with something that's taking up time, especially in a tournament situation like that, like you're not getting that time back. And yeah, yeah, that's a really good example for sure. Um, shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh, also, like, I don't I don't know if you've noticed, but I use a different tail on your XLs than what they come with, and I actually this is not to crap on your tails, but I actually like the tail that I use more because I feel like I get more action out of the XL, from the smaller tail, which, I mean, everyone can just experiment with what they think is best and what works best for them, but I do like the smaller tail on that, and it's also yeah, I don't know.
I know I found I don't know if it's the tails I use now or not. They're like longer and skinnier, but I was using the Kalen tails for a bit. You know, they're
Mhm.
kind of like a wider, and I found that that would dampen the action a bit. Not that
Oh,
you
I
couldn't still get action out of the bait, you just had to like
sure.
rip it around more. But so then I just ended up switching to another tail. I'm not sure if it's the same one. I don't know where you get your tails, but
The ones that I like, they're just it's a 3-inch I don't even know what kind of grub it is. It's a 3-inch ribbon tail grub. So it's like a 2-inch ribbon tail. It's very thin, it's very subtle. And then I like take off probably a half inch. Like I either bite it off or just twist it off and then I put it on. And I don't know why that changes the action so much, but the fish do not care. Like I was so scared when I was first fishing it, and I like the original tail fell off, and I was like, oh god, I don't have anything. And then I like found these tails that I used to replace SRJs with because I actually really like them for the SRJs. It's kind of the same kind of deal, and I twisted it on there, and I was like, oh, like that's that's gonna work.
that works.
We're gonna
Yeah.
be fine. And I
I
think I
mean, it
caught
makes
another
sense if
fish.
it's a, especially if it's a skinnier, smaller tail. Like you're gonna get more
Hmm.
movement. There's not so much drag in the back end, but
Totally.
it's. I know a guy that has a few of my baits. He actually put it's a type of paddle tail on the back, and he sent me
Really?
a picture of a 50. I don't know if it was a 50 or 51 that he caught when we
Huh.
tried it. So
That's super interesting, and yeah, like I could see in a way how like having um oh, what are those? What are they called? Gosh, like not a Kalen's, but oh my goodness, a Kitech. That's I don't know why it took me so long
okay,
to think
yeah,
of it,
yeah.
but like how a Kitech back there, especially like in the figure eight, because then you've got at least something back there moving. It's not just it, a ribbon tail or whatever. Not that those situations happen. I have been able to get them to eat in the figure eight with the Dipstick XL, but it does take a little bit of finesse. That said, most of those fish just smoke it out on the cast, which is part of why I love them so much, anyways. And
I
usually,
know.
usually
Go
it's
ahead.
at the very end, it'll be like when it comes up on the plane, like just like with rubber, it'll be that first rip up, and that'll be like the last time that they hit it. Otherwise, it's like usually way out there,
Way
and it's
out
like
on the
when it
cast.
hits. Usually, it's like when it hits the like peak of the break, and then like your break or your structure is there, and then it's kind of just skimming right over the top of it, like
Well,
when it gets to the.
if you ever get a fish, I was told this by a guide, and I tried it once, and it actually worked. I had a fish come out two different times from this one tree,
Mhm.
and the first time he came out, I thought it was going to eat, and I seen it go right back into the tree. So I turned back around, worked my way up to the tree, cast again. It came out again. This time was a bit lazier, so I ended up coming out, gave it like 10 minutes, went back again, and then it came out super lazy, and it came right to the boat. And this guy told me, he's like, if that ever happens, I buried my rod literally all the way down as far as my rod would go. I opened the bail and I pulled the rod out, so now the bait is 8 feet in the water, and it just did this
Oh,
slow rise up, and sure enough, the fish has smoked it.
crazy.
So
I'm gonna try that because I feel like that could definitely be effective in clear water, which is primarily where I fish in the summer. I also saw like Steve Hiding had a video recently, which again it was in Canada, so like asterisks, like
yeah,
but at the same time, like he had like lazy fish come in, and then he just opened his spool and let his bucktail sink all the way down to the bottom, and then he like kick started it off the bottom, and then those fish smoked it, and then he'd have them, and I'm like, like what the heck, uh, because you just get those fish where it's like I don't know what to do with it, and he just like without a second thought, he just like clicked the bail open, let it sink, and then he just ripped it up, and then the fish was on. I was like, what? What the
I
heck?
I've done that with rubber before. If a fish is following and it's like farther behind, just before it gets to the boat, I just open the bail and just let it sink, and you'd see that fish like start nose diving down, and like you'd almost let it hit the bottom and just aggressively rip it back up.
I need
They're
to.
either gonna hit it or you don't even see them again. So
Well, that's true, and I mean, you're not a fish when they're behaving that way. You're not gonna have a shot at them in the boat anyways. So like, or at the boat anyway. So like, you're not at a loss either way. So you either send it or you're not gonna get them to begin with. So
again, that was another guide that actually told me that.
I
He
need
said
to.
if you have a fish that's further behind a rubber bait, he's like, there's something about when that bait starts sinking and it goes out of their vision that it just like will
Huh.
kickstart a reaction.
I cannot wait to try some of this stuff in the spring. So that'll be cool. Um,
Always
drop a
free drop a
spinner bait
spinner bait.
and then rip that. Okay, that's a good tip. Thank you, Iverson. I appreciate that. Yeah, again, that's stuff that I need to try more. We've just been like rambling. I haven't even gotten to Bucko's stuff yet. I just, not to steal your thunder. I saw this one
No,
sitting
no,
on his booth. This thing is awesome. I was
his
like,
loon,
dang, dude.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's cool. I don't. Oh, I don't. Do you know what kind of tails he uses for these?
I think he gets a local guy around him that makes tails for him, if
Because
I'm not mistaken.
these are big, and there is going to be some thump there.
Is
I'll
that the
have to.
crankbait or is that the dive? Okay, it's the
No,
diving
this is just this is his standard dive and rise, his
rod.
6 inch, but a squirrely tail 6 inch. Um, dang, there's some beef here. I like it. I'm gonna have to definitely try that. I'm also speaking of like trying things this spring. I am so excited that I have a mini dipstick this spring right off the get go. So we got a twitch here or crank. I don't know. I'll have to just mess with this. This is kind of wild because like who knows?
Yeah,
Is it gonna be?
that's his new bait, right?
Yeah, this is his new
Yeah,
crankbait.
I was. That thing's got to
I,
push so much water.
oh God, I know. Like this is like it's similar to a ridge, but like that front face, that thing just has to move ungodly amounts of water down there. Like they got to know that it's down there from the other side of the lake. The only thing is no rattle, so that's okay. So if they're liking the ridge but want something different, then maybe that's a good one to go with. This loon is freaking cool. I don't know how he painted that or how you guys do your thing, but you guys definitely
Those
know
are all
what's up.
tricks of the trade.
I know. I'm gonna have to make a longer form tackle talk with this. Oh man, this one is dope. Holy cow. Bucko outdid himself on this one.
The
I
peacock.
don't have enough light, but this is the 8 inch, I think, an 8 inch squirrely tail bucko. This thing feels really heavy. I don't know what kind of suspension this guy's got, but this thing is awesome. That pattern is really cool. It's like a chartreuse perch, kind of.
It
It's like
looks like a
natural.
peacock bass.
That's
The way the
exactly what
bars
the
are.
pattern is. I'm pretty sure. Dude, this thing is awesome. How
Bucko's the
does he?
man. He's such
Bucko
a good
is the
dude.
man. I totally agree. I don't know how he got that tail in there like that though. I'm kind of scared because if it comes out, I don't know how I'm getting it back in. It doesn't look like it's a screw eye. It looks like it's pushed in there and glued. I don't know if the other one's kind of got that too. Yeah, Bucko's a G. Well, this one's got a black plastic, so I can't even with the smoke plastic. I can't even tell.
Uh,
So yeah, they push a lot of
yeah,
water. Yeah, I yeah, they're cool. Yeah, peacock bass I think is probably the best way to describe that one. I'll probably just have to do a formal tackle talk with all this good stuff from the New York Musky Expo that you guys were kind enough to send my way. I've got some stuff coming from Duke as well. Um,
speaking
that's
of
something.
dropping a spinner bait, if you actually, I don't know what size of spinner bait you got from Duke, but his are actually really good for like yo-yoing in. Those blades
Oh,
just
really?
always move. Yeah, I
Um,
love his spinner baits. I was throwing them a lot last year.
yeah, they're really, really good, and I don't feel too dirty about throwing them as far as like Thatcher is concerned because like they're they're two totally different things. Um, like the growler and the triple deuce are completely different. Also, his wire diameter is different from those guys, and
Yeah.
yeah, you've got like a beefed up traditional versus like the mojo that Thatcher creates with the growlers. Like those things are just there's nothing out there like them. I like KV says he doesn't charge enough for them, to be completely honest. The fact that you can get that bait for whatever it is 18 or 19
Yeah.
bucks US is ridiculous.
Do you have
But
any of Duke's spinner baits right now?
I have a few. I bought one of his fluted models in December, and then I won. So the Simon Dennis does the Christmas giveaway stuff every year, and
Yep.
he did a $200 or $250 gift card. I don't remember what it was, um, but I got like spot 5 on that one, and I can't believe no one took him up on it. And I was like, "Holy crap!" Uh, that was the it was somehow left when it got to me, so I snatched that thing up right away. So we've kind of been working together, and we've got I've got a cool idea I think planned for the tackle talk once that stuff arrives, which I would imagine it'll be Monday if it didn't get here today.
Yeah,
Um,
I was throwing. I got a couple of hits, and I was throwing. I think it was the double tens, and we're doing some night fishing. You can hear that thing coming from like 25 feet away. Like
oh,
you can
that's
just
awesome.
feel it and just hear it. And we ended up getting a couple fish that night. I was like, all right, that was the first time using it. Actually, I also caught a smallmouth at like 1 o'clock in the morning on double ten. Uh, and you've seen the size, the sheer size of his
Oh yeah.
spinner baits, right? They're
Well,
so they have a big profile.
and that's I kind of took advantage of the fact that like I won that gift card because I was like I would never get a D12 or the probably even the D10 if it weren't for that thing. I was like, I'm gonna get one, and I'm gonna get one of each of those, and I don't know how much I'll throw them. It might be once a year, it might be 20 times a year. I don't know, but at least I will have those bigger profile spinner baits if I want to use them ever. Like I'll probably get more runtime out of the D8s and the Woo Banger and some of his other smaller-ish models.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't remember what he calls the double fluted one. Like that'll be a great spring bait through the weeds and stuff. But I definitely got one of the D9s in kind of a more obnoxious color for if I go up to Canada or if it's like here in the fall. Because I have one of his D8s in kind of a lemon head color that he sent me
yeah,
last year, and I really like that. We threw it around a little bit this fall, but for whatever reason, like blades were just not the thing this fall for us. Like there were guys around me that caught them. There were guides here in Iowa that did really well. I know Jonas and his clients did really well on blades this fall. I just could not. I could not make it happen. I don't know why. I had I had like the very end of August. I had one come in hot on the baby bat egg, and then he just like disappeared in the first turn of the 8, and that was like the last fish I saw on a blade all all season. I don't know. And like the Gronkle I have crushed fish with the last 2 falls. Like that thing has just been the freaking sauce, and this fall it just was not. And I don't know. Fish are
yeah.
weird.
Hey, I going into this season, I'll be throwing spinner baits a lot more. I'm gonna grab a few more of them from Duke, and I got some
Yeah.
growlers and stuff. I've caught some fish on the growlers, but I just feel like the last few years I just been throwing big baits, and it seems to me, even the way the industry's going, I feel like a lot of people are starting to downsize a
Hmm.
lot of baits, and I hear from a lot of people. But then again, some of the fish that were caught up here in like Nipissing were all caught on like those toddy tickle war hammers with, you know, the spinnerbait arms on them. Like some of the
Hmm.
biggest fish I've heard in a long time came this year. And for whatever reason, it seemed last year was just like swim baits up in our area at least were just crushing. And
I love
I
I love
finally I
swim
finally got
baits.
my hands on a couple of Brady swim fins.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
excited to throw those, and then I'm gonna grab a couple baits from Toddy at the Odyssey because they are wicked. I don't
That's
know if you've ever seen them or not, but
Yeah, I picked one up from Duke. I'm curious as to how those are gonna. how those are going to play. I think that they will play really well on our clear water. I don't think like our fall transition bite. I don't think that they will play as much because I think that I'm going to run into the same problem with those that I do with Brady's baits, where generally I'm fishing so shallow at that point in time that it's tough to work those baits where I want to work them. Um, that being said, the last fish that I caught last year was on Bowfin Junior, but I mean, it's time and place for everything, really. And I didn't get the swim fins early enough last year to really mess with them as much as I would have liked. And yeah, I two of our biggest bites in the fall came on the shallow swim dogs. I love those. They're like the best client
Yeah,
bait. Uh,
user
I had
friendly.
Yeah, I had a client get their first fish on, or it wouldn't have been their first fish on one, but I had a client get a fish on one. I had a client lose. It was a big one. It was a nice fish on one. I don't know what happened, but muskies are magicians. And then my dad was throwing a mag shallow dog this fall and lost a nice one that was probably 44 to 46, and it's just like I just couldn't. This is like the second fall in a row. I just could not win on the big bites. Like all of the big
Yeah.
bites, they just like eluded me, and it's very frustrating because this is like 2 years in a row now that this has happened. But
It'll
it
pay
is
off
what it is.
eventually, man.
It is
That's
what
why
it is,
we
man.
keep going after them. It's gonna happen one of these days.
it's it's just it's frustrating, but that's just part of the deal. I just felt bad for dad because I felt so validated when he got that fish to eat, and my buddy and I like looked back at the swirl, and it's like, and we're just like, yeah, that was a good
And
one, Dad.
it's one of those things. Like a couple guys I fish with, they're brothers, and the one brother Mike, he was just crushing fish all year, like big ones. Like that one day, 53, 52, 50, and a
God,
49, all in one day. And his brother Matt lost one, and then just struggled, and you could tell he was frustrated. But at the end of the season, he got a 55, and that just makes your whole season right there. We knew it was gonna
yeah,
happen. We kept telling them like, you're probably gonna catch the biggest fish of your life,
oh
and sure
yeah.
enough, he got his PB towards the end of the year.
That's
So
the thing that I have found with this sport, probably more than anything, is that the universe usually finds a way to equalize. Whether it's like you're on a good streak and things are going really, really well, eventually that will not be the case. Or if it's like things are kind of tough, eventually like the musky gods will throw you a bone. It may not be when you want it or when you need it most, but it will happen at some point. Um, and
yeah,
it's tough. It's tough to stay on the fish and stay consistent all the time. There's not really a good way to do it. I've
like
talked about it
all
before.
for sure. All year last year, I just couldn't wait for the fall because the previous fall we were just hammering big fish and
Hmm.
just couldn't wait for the water to cool down. We're gonna do it, and it was the worst fall I've ever had since I started musky fishing, and it was rather
Sorry to hear that.
frustrating.
I
It
was going to
was,
ask
but
you
hey,
about that because I know we
and our
talked a
home
little bit.
waters, yeah, it was terrible. I'm not gonna lie, but
Uh,
hey,
Sorry, man.
I did like I've told you before. I did way better in the states last year than I did in Canada, and but yeah, in the fall it was weird. Like I take notes of everything, so I was like going by the notes and like not
Mhm.
working, trying different things, not working. I even went out. I think it was the start of November, and I trolled for 17 hours by myself, and I didn't get a single rip.
Ugh, sorry, man.
I,
That's
it was
tough.
just I was so frustrated at that point, and then we ended up going out in December. Like there was some trips in between then, just struck out. We ended up losing a couple, but they were like short strikes. We didn't know if they were pike or not because generally there's a lot of pike that move in with them. And
Sure.
eventually, the very last day we were out there, we were doing our stuff, and it's like we're gonna go like super super shallow and fish the areas we don't normally go because they're usually so loaded with pike, and we've caught
Hmm.
them in there. It's just they've all been like, if you caught one over 30 inches, like you'd be lucky. It's like the nursery, and we went in there, and I had that nomad shad out for about 30 seconds. So it was actually this guy,
That looks
and
awesome.
the funny story about that is I even told my uncle I set my baits out first. It's pretty windy. I'm like, dial your drags down because the last time I was in there, I had a pike. I don't even know how long I was dragging this pike for. Like, just
Oh
didn't pull any
no.
drag. So I was like, dial your drags down a bit. There's probably going to be some pike in here. And I sat on the boat and I grabbed the helm and he's letting his out. And I'm like, look back and I'm like, did you open my rod? He's like, no. And I'm like looking at this is like so out of tune we were all fall. And I just look back and there's a muskie at the surface flopping. I was like, holy shit, it's a muskie, dude. Grab it. We got in the net. It was like a 44-incher and I was just
Nice.
so jacked. And then we ended up losing one about, again, it was on one of these ones, about 25 minutes later. Um, and that was a much bigger fish. It was actually a bigger fish than I've seen in there in a while.
Dang.
And that one came, it was, again, the water was, this is in 8 feet of water and fish came right up. It was like tail dancing and just popped off. And then it got real windy. So we had to get out of there. But
Dang.
whatever. It's like we caught one the last day we were out there. At least we didn't get skunked again.
Sure. Yeah, the fall for me was weird too in a lot of ways, and I'll level with you. For me, it seemed like they definitely were positioned more shallow than normal. Not like out of like out of control shallow, but definitely like if they're normally in 4 or 5 foot, they were a little shallower than that. Which I don't know if that's a structure thing or a bait thing. That's just kind of how it was. And we went. It was so strange because we went in September. Like September wasn't as good as normal, but it was still very good, very consistent. We were getting like 1 to 5 shots, every trip out, which is great. That's what you want. But then like Connor and I, we went out the first weekend in October. Water temps were good. It was like 67 to 69, which is abnormally warm for that time of year, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like it had fallen off of a cliff from the previous weekend or the previous time that I had been out. And Connor fishes all day with his buddy Saturday, doesn't see a fish. And then we go out, we fish all day on Sunday, don't see a fish. And it's like, what is even happening? It's like we're running the exact same program that has literally worked the, 3 weeks before. We're trying other things too. And it's just like, where did they go? I assume that they probably didn't go anywhere. They were just shut down. But um,
That's,
it's weird how those
yeah,
fish work like that.
it seemed to be a
And
thing because like our fish are so scattered, right? Normally. And in the
yeah,
fall is why we like the fall because they tend to group up and they're a lot
you bet.
easier to find. But it just
You
seemed
bet.
like them grouping up was not a thing. And then you'd be out there and you hear of like a couple getting caught. And it's just like we're doing the same thing. There's just wasn't our year. Especially you go the year before, from November to December, we got 22 fish, and the smallest one was a 44.
Yeah,
And we thought we had it all figured out because we had all the data from the last 6 years, and we're like putting two and two together. It's like this seems to be a thing. When the wind is this way, the fish are out this deep. These are the baits
hmm
they're hitting. And then we were trying everything. I was trolling swim baits. I trolled bulldogs at one point. I slow trolled. I was speed trolling. I was throwing bucktails. Like I tried absolutely everything possible. I even put like a shad wrap with like a 3 ounce weight just to get it to the bottom,
sure.
basically, and just nothing seemed to work. But it is what it is. Plus, our water temp was so warm for so long, and it was kind of like it
Yeah,
was like
I would agree
this,
with
like
that.
this, like this, and all of a sudden just went bam in December,
hmm
and it whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. Yeah, ours did a similar thing, and our November was better than most. We fished kind of a different lake than we typically do, and we did a lot more casting in November than typical. But like the activity level of the fish for us in November was, I mean, granted, I'm fishing with Barry and Andrew Yamakowski, so like good sticks in the boat, but like, just the windows that we got, like we fished a couple of random half days in November, and we were getting like, I think we were getting like 2 to 5 shots on in like whatever 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and that was very strange to me. Normally we're not getting that kind of action in that kind of time, but I guess the rubber band snapped back from October being tougher because I think it was Halloween when Dad lost that one, and that was like there was a weekend that I took off in there because like September was super busy, and then Connor's weekend, and there's another weekend. Oh, I duck hunted one weekend, but like so for the time that I was out, it just that was like the one shot that we got in October. And it's like I don't know how you go from like super consistent to then just like nothing,
Oh
and
yeah,
then I honestly probably the most consistent fishing that I had all season was just in Canada, just doing summer pattern stuff and like yeah, I don't know because I think in Wisconsin just that water being cooler kept them spread out longer because they could stay comfortable in the shallows longer, or they could go out deep if they wanted to recover, or they could be somewhere in the middle because like the bait hadn't been forced out deep yet either, and
yeah.
I think that just them being spread out was what made the bite tough at times for me up there. But I mean, we caught fish; it was fine. Some of it is just like my inconsistencies as well, not being able to be on the water, every day as often as what I've done in the past before I had kids. So
I
that's just
get
kind
it,
of the
but
thing.
yeah, hey, it keeps us going, right? I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to this season.
yeah.
But
I mean, same. I've been talking to the guys about the spring trip. I'm sure you've been talking to the legend down south about your spring trip as well. So, I was going to ask you,
yeah,
when are you doing that this season?
we haven't nailed that down yet. It's always in May. I don't know if it's going to be the start of May, um, middle of May. I hope it's kind of middle of May because the Musky Hunt guys are doing something in the start of May, and I'd like to
Right.
go down there and fish with them. But um, I'm hoping it's the second or third week in May, but we haven't really talked dates yet. And but I'll definitely be going down there. I'll
Nice.
definitely have to get a hold of you and see where you're at that point when I'm down there. Maybe we can make something work at least. So I'll probably be driving this year, possibly.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Keep me in the loop on that. The 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 real X factor to that is gonna be when the other little one arrives because it's like
Yeah,
right
yeah,
around that time. So
gotcha.
that'll be that'll be kind of a weird dynamic to work. I feel like with
Yeah,
some of the other spring stuff I've got scheduled, I'm kind of pushing my luck a little bit already, but we'll see what happens. I don't
I was gonna say, do you have any major trips planned this year besides
know.
the spring stuff?
Not really. No, because like the Minnesota opener stuff, I can't really do that this season with the little one arriving because that'll be right around that time. Same with like Wisconsin opener. His like due date is um about I think it is Wisconsin opener maybe or the weekend before. I'd have to double check that, but like it's all right around there.
Yeah,
K
KV.
K KV says you're
That's
not going. It's like, yeah, no kidding, KV.
yeah.
I'll be
Let's
my hope is that there might be if I'm in Hayward a couple of long weekends, I might be able to sneak to Lake of the Woods with Thatch, and then maybe some Ontario stuff with Andrew on his program there, but that's kind of up in the air. Like obviously, if I can, it's a lot easier to make those long weekends work when I'm in Hayward because it's like 5 hours to Lake of the Woods from there versus
gotcha.
10 hours from here. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, KV and I are gonna have to stomp around the Northwoods a little bit. The
Fair enough.
only
5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm curious how Willow's gonna do this year because she's definitely like ready to rip, and we're gonna have to like venture out in the boat this season and go to that one spot that's close to the cabin, KV, that you know about, and do some poking around there. See what
That's funny
happens.
because my youngest, my son, is born on the weekend of our muskie opener.
Oh,
So
really?
I've always said that to my wife. It's like whether he likes musky fish or not, that's his birthday present, and we're going north.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he will gravitate eventually, regardless. So that would be really cool if he did, because then that's just kind of a fun natural transition to just the season starting and all the things, anyways. So,
Well,
uh,
my daughter is the one that is taking a liking to fishing more so now. She's also sevens, but she loves the bait making thing. Like
yeah, that's awesome.
she she comes down here and like after I sand all the baits after they're base coated, She's like, what can I do? She'll clean all the baits off for me.
That's great.
She's actually painted a few baits. I'm gonna actually epoxy one, and I'm told her I'm gonna catch a fish on it for her this year because it's pretty cool. It's black, gold, and orange. So can't go wrong anywhere with those
No,
colors.
the
And
the
then
nuclear crappie color that she cooked up is also that is definitely going to be a catcher.
here's a fun fact. I brought 6 of those to New York, and I only came home with one. So I'm like, this one's mine. I'll have to paint some
There you go.
more. That was
There you
actually the
go.
first bait. It was the first bait sold and the last bait sold.
That's
So
crazy.
I messaged. I let her know right away that her color choice was great, and it sold. So she was loving that.
Yeah, Willow's already having fun with the ice and ice fishing this season, and she had fun last year on the dock, so she's definitely going to be ready to rip out onto some weed flats and do some stuff. So I don't know. I can't imagine after what all went down today that Callie's going to let me take her out on the ice again this winter. So
Yeah,
it's a good
I
thing
don't blame her.
it's a good thing we got that in when we did. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
it'll
agree.
be fun when the summer gets here, and she'll yeah, she's already
You'll have to
talking about
mix.
hunting and stuff too, which is fun. So it'll
You'll
be
have to
great.
mix in some trolling when she's on the boat,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
to keep her moving around.
trolling and figure out how to cast for bass and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
she could definitely reel in a trolling rod, so we'll definitely figure that out. And maybe there'll be an afternoon we can all just kind of go for a boat ride. Heck, that's the best time that I ever had trolling was the one afternoon we just decided randomly to go for a boat ride. Actually, my buddy Jaron and I were talking about that recently. So he came he stays at a resort north of us, and then he came down the morning to fish with me, and like nothing was happening. It was like the Dead Sea, but it was like a beautiful, sunny, calm day. So then I took Callie's grandparents and her, and we trolled. And Callie's grandpa tied his personal best with me that afternoon, and then her grandma caught one too, which I assume it was her personal best. I don't really know because I don't know how many muskies she's actually caught, but they both caught one that day, and that ended up being Callie's grandpa's last fish. And it was just like on a whim. We just went trolling one day, and it worked. I don't,
oh,
I don't
hey,
know.
that's good.
It was cool. I guess that's probably the biggest reason I started filming in the first place. But yeah,
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to be in Wisconsin the end of August fishing.
the end of August. I will probably be back in Iowa at that point, unfortunately, because usually I have to transition back as the school year begins,
Yeah,
which is kind of
well,
lame.
I was talking to Rich, and we got talking, and I told him, I was like, I want to fish Wisconsin. He's like, why the hell would you want to go to Wisconsin? It's like, because I just love fishing new waters and knocking states off. So he made some phone calls, and he's got some guys that are lined up. But I also want to get a hold of Regan and maybe
Hmm.
KV, get a hold of him while I'm up there, and we can get a day or two good at fishing. I'm hoping to do a week. I don't want to
Hit up,
push my luck, but
hit up Taylor. Hit up Taylor too, especially if you're in
uh,
that area where Rich is at,
well, Taylor,
and Gus.
we called each other a couple weeks ago, just before the
Nice,
Musky Expo, and I sent him home with some baits too. So
awesome.
um,
KV says
he's
he's got
gonna.
a day for you.
Oh,
I wish
beautiful. Well,
I wish
I'll
I
have to
could
talk to
guarantee
you.
that I'd be up there. That would be awesome. But that's the crappy part about the like summer in Wisconsin. Is usually when that like transition bite starts to fire up there, that's usually when I have to go home, which is like the lamest thing on
Yeah,
earth.
that's tough. I mean, there's no set date at the moment yet because
Sure.
it's kind of still in the air, but it's just I was told end of August, which is also my favorite time of year here in Canada. But I just I just like fishing new stuff, and it'd be good to meet KV, go see Regan, go fish with Rich. He said he's got a couple guys that I should fish with, so
Yeah,
hopefully make a week out of it, but we'll see. I got to get that nailed down still.
totally. That's a fun adventure for sure. Like kind of just being the nomad down south or up north is generally what I do, and it's a lot of fun. It's always interesting to plan those trips out. But definitely keep me in the loop on that because if I'm still up there and you decide to go a little early, we will definitely make something happen.
I mean, there'll be we're gonna get fishing at some point. I
I know. We like our paths cross too closely too often to like not make it
I know.
happen at some point. Uh, so yeah, it will, no doubt about it.
Because I haven't fished in Iowa before, so I would like to knock that one off the list too.
Yeah, I can't guarantee anything because they're the finicky Wisconsin strain, like everyone else, everywhere else I fish, pretty much, other than Canada. But if I've learned one thing in the past few years, it's that muskies are muskies everywhere. It's
Hey,
annoying.
I get it. I get it. But that's part of it. That's probably my favorite part is the grind. Just trying to
The
make it
the
work.
hunt. Hmm.
The hunt.
Yeah,
That's right.
I totally agree because it's definitively you against the fish, and I think that's why I like it as much as I do because there's just, I mean, there's obviously egos and BS and all kinds of nonsense, just like any fishing competition or sport, but like it is definitively you against the fish more in this sport than anything else because they're just dicks most of the time, and yeah.
Well, I just like when I go to new water and people are like, oh, they only eat small baits, and then I proceed to catch one on an XL dipstick. It's like I like learning what they do, but I
Hmm.
also like bringing some of the stuff that we do, and then I bring
Oh,
stuff that
totally.
they do down there, and it's like I'm gonna try that up here. And like you said, muskies are muskies no matter where you go. And I think we all
Hmm.
just get set, get that mindset. This is the only thing that's gonna work. This is where the only place they are.
Yep.
And even that with the last couple of years, like just fishing so much deeper than like I know you guys talk or you guys fish a lot of weeds. Like the only time we fish weeds is like early spring, and then it's like a lot of open water stuff. Even when we go to
Mm.
Nipissing, it's cool to see again what it's like down in New York and what their fish do summertime and what our fish do in the summer or spring or wherever. And that's another
Yeah.
thing with seasons being open in different areas. Like I'll be down to, I'm gonna be fishing the mid to end of March with well, there's a gentleman and hopefully Kevin Goldberg is gonna be joining us, but it sounds like I'll be fishing with two of these guys down there. They're both real good sticks, so I'm curious. And they're gonna teach me. They told me that time of year is usually the rattle trap bite, which has never been.
Nice.
I don't know anyone that does that in Canada. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. And they talked to me about it, and it seems very interesting. So that's
I
something I'm looking forward to.
I really hope that it works for you because pre-spawn muskies, in my experience, have not been kind to me. They've been kind to a couple of my friends. I've caught a couple of them, but overall, it is tough fishing. But again, if you're fishing like rivers and those kinds of things, I could see how that would be different. Um, because like where I fish in the pre-spawn, like those fish are already fattened up, they've got their eggs, they've got all the things. Like they can just literally sit there for as long as they want until they until the perfect meal or opportunity presents itself. Nothing is forcing them to do literally anything. And I think that's what makes it so hard for us in particular, I guess. That's not to say you can't catch fish. People catch them all the time in the pre-spawn. A lot of times people catch big fish in the pre-spawn. Technically speaking, my personal best is a pre-spawn fish that I caught unintentionally on the lax. And it's like, obviously we're not targeting pre-spawn fish, but I mean that's just how it happened.
Yeah,
It grabbed a thing that it thought was a perch on its way in to do its thing, and hopefully it still did. I don't know. But um, yeah,
but yeah, like Kevin
pre-spawn.
Goldberg, he came up to me because this gentleman's name's Dave, and we talked throughout the show. He was at another booth, very nice guy. And then Kevin came up to me. He's like, Adam, he's like, Dave is probably the best fisherman in PA. And that's coming from Kevin
No
Goldberg.
kidding.
So he told me
That's a
that. And
heck
he's
of a
like, I fish
compliment.
with him. He's like, Adam, he is an absolute stick. He doesn't talk to anyone about anything, he doesn't post anything. And this guy was showing me pictures of some of the fish he catches. And I know PA has big fish, but this guy catches like last year his first pre-spawn fish was a 38 pounder, and it was on his second cast
Dang.
on a. And he was showing me, he's telling me what they use, and like he's showing me the pictures. I was sign me up, Dave, whenever you want. And then we're talking to Kevin. He's like, I was just like, give me a 3 days notice, and I'm gonna make sure I'm there. I'll come for a weekend or even during the week. I really want to fish. I tried to fish with Kevin last year, but just things weren't working out. He was actually going to come up here at one point, but I told him don't bother because things are not laying out like they normally are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping to jump in his boat at some point, but hopefully this March.
Yeah, Brady Martz and some of his homies down there catch some insane
Yes.
fish, and I know that they've got some secret mojo figured out that I'm not even going to speak to, but like
Yep.
there are some serious fish to be had in that neck of the woods if you know what you're doing.
100%. There's some big fish down there.
Well, Adam, I got bad news, dude. My phone is about to die. So
Not a
I
problem, man.
I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you taking a break from painting and doing all the things to come talk to me and hang out. So hopefully I made up for not going live last weekend by myself because this was like 10 times cooler anyway. So um, appreciate you greatly. Appreciate the baits and the conversation. Can't wait to meet you in person. Hopefully here in about a month. So it'd be great.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. I've told you before. If you ever want to chat, just let me know. I'm usually down here every night just painting baits, so I don't mind at all.
Heck yeah, dude. I greatly appreciate it, and I appreciate you. So thanks again for coming on. I'm sure that we'll chat again here soon, but I'm gonna sign off before my phone dies. And oh, before I do that, is there anything that you want to pump before I take off? Because we touched on pretty much all the stuff, but anything specifically you want to touch on before I leave?
It's just shows or I guess the Odyssey in Ontario, which is March 8th, and then I'll be at Wausau, Wisconsin, which is the 14th to 16th of
Yep.
March. So that's about it. Just prepping for those shows and gonna go hard until then and knock out as many bases as I can, and then whatever I have left, I'll be throwing them online.
Heck
So
yeah, dude. Well, I appreciate it and appreciate you. It's been a pleasure as always. And yeah, if nothing else, I'll see you hopefully in Wisconsin in about a month, dude. Thank you so much.
absolutely, buddy. Thanks again.
All right. See you, dude.
All right, we'll see you. Cheers.